Mic check. All right, let's talk about streaming resolutions. I've been streaming at 936p on Twitch for about 2.5 months now, and I have a beast of a rig. I have a Threadripper 1950X processor. It can handle 1080p 60 on a slow X264 preset. If you don't know what that means, just go watch my encoder video. And basically, after streaming at 936p, 900p, 1080p, and 720p, I can say that 936p looks better than 1080p. Now, there's probably two things you're thinking of. One, that's not possible because obviously 1080p is a higher resolution. And two, 936p is a really random and arbitrary defined number, right? It's not as random as you think. First, let's talk about why 936p looks better than 1080p. That's because, if you don't know, Twitch caps you at a 6,000 bitrate as a non-partner and an 8,000 bitrate as a partner. You can't stream above 8,000 bitrate or 8 megabit upload speed. That's your cap. 1080p, to look even relatively sharp, usually requires between 15 to 30 megabit per second encoding speed, which is the equivalent of a 15,000 bitrate. That's what I render these videos off at for YouTube. And in my encoder video, I specifically talked about how you can't make up for a lack of bitrate. The problem is that basically you have a certain amount of data that you need to push through a hose. Your data is your water that goes through the hose, and let's say you need to push 10,000 through the hose, but your hose only allows for 6,000 to go through, you're just gonna lose quality. You just don't have the ability to make up, no matter how good your encoder is. And by the way, almost no processor can handle anything beyond X264 slow encoding preset. So you've pretty much already hit the maximum cap. So that's why it's actually smarter to downscale from 1080p to 936p, because now you're actually going to have less pixels to encode, and it's a sweet spot between 720p, 1080p, because it's actually still preserving a good bit of sharpness while getting significantly less compression. Those pixels that you see all over the screen when you're playing fast motion games like Warzone or Apex or anything like that, where it's moving all over the place, when there's a lot of fine detail, that's when you start seeing all that compression. Dropping all that encoding power off of the rig anyway will allow you to run other programs in the background like Leorin Board and Spotify and Chrome and Streamlabs and everything that you need basically while you're doing a dual PC setup, which is why I have 4 monitors. I think the camera's moving because Basil's rubbing up against it. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is my kitty. He's grumpy because I'm not playing with him. See, he's grumpy. So normally when you're on Twitch, let's say you're on the desktop, like you're watching on your computer, you've noticed that when you're watching a streamer, the screen isn't actually full screen. By default, the video player is actually smaller on screen. You can see all the people you're following on the left, the video player is in center, and then chat's on the right. Now, I don't ever watch full screen, or very rarely do I do, but if you actually look, you can see the dimensions of the video player, and it's a lot smaller than what you're actually watching at. Now, the reason this is important is because you need to know something about PPI, which is pixels per inch. It's how many pixels are packed into an inch of a monitor. And without getting overly specific, basically a 1080p monitor at 24 inches is a 92 pixel per inch density. And for gaming, that's pretty much where you want to be around, is 92 pixels per inch. If you go to a 27-inch monitor at 1080p, it drops down to about 82 pixels per inch. The video player actually plays significantly smaller than your screen, right? So what's happening is you're shrinking that video player down, and you're actually cramming the pixels into an even tighter space, allowing you for an even greater pixel density than that of 92 pixels per inch. So you're taking 936p and cramming it down into something that's just a little bit larger than 720p, therefore actually preserving a good bit of the sharpness. Thus why you also don't need to stream at 1080p on Twitch, besides the fact that your bitrate choked out. Let's talk about why specifically 936p, right? It's a weird number, it seems random, right? However, it's not as random as you think. If you know, everyone streams in a rectangular format, mostly known by 16:9. This is the ratio at which the screen is shown. And so 720p, 936p, 972p, which is what original Xbox Ones played at, and 1080p are all true 16:9 ratios. And they all have one thing in common. They're all divisible by 8. I'm not gonna go super in depth about how encoders work, but basically your horizontal, your horizontal and your vertical dimensions need to be divisible by 8. That's all it needs to be, basically. It's so 1920 by 1080 is evenly divisible by 8. 1664 by 936, evenly divisible by 8. Same thing with 720p. And you see a lot of streamers go into 900p, which is 1600 by 900. OBS will tell you this is a perfect 16 by 9 resolution. Basically, all it's telling you is that it can encode it, but it's not evenly divisible by 8. So basically all that happens is it fills in the other pixels that it needs to make it a true 16 by 9 ratio, and either puts arbitrarily defined data or stretches the pixels to make the image full screen properly. If you want to see 936p in action, feel free to hop over in my stream at twitch.tv/pixelperfect. I use an X264 slow encoder preset. I'll leave a link in the description down below where you can hop over into Discord. So if you want to copy my exact stream settings, you can. Just understand that I'm using a dual PC streaming setup, so I have a computer specifically just for streaming, and then I do all my gaming on another computer because I don't want to have that lag that you get when you put too much load from either one. Lastly, I wouldn't get too wrapped up in resolutions, truthfully. I wanted to talk about this because people are always trying to strive for like the best quality on Twitch, and 1080p is always the goal, but until Twitch raises the bitrate cap for everybody and gives us manual transcoding all the time like YouTube streaming does, there's no point. Which, by the way, YouTube actually allows you to stream at a 9000 bitrate, which I'm tempted to try out just to see how it looks, but for right now I'm just gonna keep streaming on Twitch and just keep growing over there, because when it comes down to it, people don't really care about what resolution you're streaming at, what kind of camera you're using, or your lighting or anything like that. Realistically, the most thing that's important is audio, which is actually going to be the next video we're talking about why quality doesn't matter. Hilarious way to end this video. Thank you for watching, guys. Feel free to drop a like on the video, drop a comment down below, or subscribe to help grow the channel. We're almost at 500 subs, which is awesome. Didn't expect us to get here so quickly. Also, feel free to follow me over on Twitch if you want to talk about more resolutions, talk about how to make your stream setups better. I do a lot of time in just chatting, and I've also been on that Apex ranked grind, so feel free to hop on over and have a good time, some laughs, and hopefully I'll see you there. Peace.
Just so I can learn the maps, because this is fucking insane.